Hello everyone, I'm Mike DeAngelo with That's Entertainment, and this is your video review of Deus Ex: Human Revolution by Eidos Montreal. Since the Square Enix-Eidos merger in 2009, there have been few widely known releases on the Eidos side. The upcoming Tomb Raider game is probably the one that gets the most advertising, but Eidos was never a one-trick pony, having such mainstream titles as Hitman, Legacy of Kain, and Thief. One of its other franchises, Deus Ex, has had an up-and-down ride since its first title released over a decade ago. Deus Ex: Invisible War, the second game in the series, left a sour taste in some players' mouths. After an award-winning and critically acclaimed introduction into the franchise, Invisible War felt underwhelming. Perhaps that was why things were mostly quiet regarding Deus Ex this year. Because of the humility of the developer and publisher, this game practically snuck into stores. Has Deus Ex: Human Revolution learned from the mistakes of its predecessors, or is it bound to blend in as a sad, forgotten reminder of how far the series has fallen?
There's something I should know about this place, about Sarah.
In the year 2027, as the culmination of human augmentation spreads across the world, society is forced to acknowledge it. Nanotechnology allows biomechanical upgrades and prosthetics to be given to soldiers, mercenaries, and amputees. Despite the huge advancements in this type of technology and the tremendous problems it solves, some oppose the idea and the other situations that can arise from its implementation. Adam Jensen works for one of the industry's leading megacorporations. After ending a career as a SWAT officer, he was offered a job at Sarif Industries as a security specialist. This opportunity was offered to him in part because of his relationship with one of Sarif's leading scientists, his ex-girlfriend Megan. Megan's research is paving the way for the future of augmented technology, which, unfortunately, falls under the scrutiny of some very bad people. In the process of this mercenary group hitting Sarif Labs, Adam is decimated and nearly killed. His boss, David Sarif, turns Jensen into a cross between RoboCop and the Bionic Man, and keeps him in one piece thanks to the pioneered augmentations. 6 months after the disaster, where Megan and a host of other scientists lost their lives, a new terrorist event is unfolding, but it just may be hiding a conspiracy in the shadows.
I think you're gone, Doc.
Deus Ex looks strongly at what's made other stealth-based games entertaining over the years, but one of the most noted ones has got to be Metal Gear Solid. As Jensen, you're tasked with sneaking around different areas and facilities. If you're spotted, an alarm is raised and you have to either find a way to safety or fight against the odds. Combat is relevant thanks to a cover system and a variety of weapons and augmentations. The difficulty is not forgiving though, and if you find that you can't stay out of the open, you will get mowed down. It's actually a breath of fresh air to have that happen though. If the game would have held your hand through some of the harder fights, it would have been more of a disappointment. You can, of course, alter your abilities, as Deus Ex is also part RPG. As you gain experience, you gain praxis points, which are basically skill points. There are several different sets of augmentations that Jensen has been equipped with, and each functions in its own way. If you're sick of taking damage from a fall, you can throw points into the Icarus landing system. If you want to be able to tell where your enemies are looking without using direct line of sight, you can do that too. Getting from place to place requires a good deal of finesse, but even the greatest stealth players out there would have some trouble getting behind closed doors without hacking skills. The hacking minigame that Deus Ex employs is fairly simple, and if you hack every object you see, it can get a little old, but it pays off well more often than not. Finally, the game relies on a social pillar to initiate conversations with several high-rung characters. The way you handle these conversations have tremendous effects as the story plays out, and can lead to different levels of comfort based on your actions.
You think I like this? Look at me. From SWAT team commander.
For the most part, Human Revolution is a gritty futuristic adventure. You'll get to see how Detroit looks 15 years from now as well as China. You'll also travel to Singapore and Montreal, but you won't have much opportunity to see the lay of the land there. Most facilities look fairly similar to the ones before it, and surprisingly, there's a new standard on how companies build air vents. Luckily, they're all Adam Jensen sized. There's a lot of repetitiveness here, but you'll likely be sneaking around so much anyway you won't realize it. The music is also held back, and only 2 songs stick out in my head, but they can be fairly entertaining nonetheless. Realistically, they leave room for the dialogue that you'll hear throughout the game, in and out of combat.
You're gonna have a hard time convincing people you're any different.
Gentlemen, prepare for landing.
Human Revolution prides itself on choices. There are tons of different ways that you can go about a mission, and despite its implications that stealth is the best way to go about things, you can still go in guns blazing if you're competent enough. If stealth is what you prefer, sneaking through vents isn't your only option. Other augmentations allow you to find weakened walls and smash through them with ease, or if you want, you can turn on a personal cloaking device and walk right by your enemies. No matter how you want to play, you can turn around and change your style in a heartbeat, which really keeps the game feeling fresh throughout. There are several points in the story where your preference might be turned on its head, and you'll have to consider a new plan of action, which can be exhilarating or annoying based on how you see it.
Telling you, Hugh, he might not have put the gun in Sanders' hand, but it was Taggart's speech to the UN that started all.
Eidos Montreal comes out swinging, and its aim to impress does not waver. While there is some redundancy in certain parts of this game, and it does suffer from one of the most underwhelming endings I've ever dealt with, the core of the game is entertaining and addicting. In a year that's already seen plenty of quality titles and expects much more, this release certainly stands tall in the crowd. That's Entertainment awards Deus Ex Human Revolution a score of 9 out of 10.
Same risk as you, considering you're the one who